4th time to the century mark under Will Wade. Dallin, that was fun. Most points versus a conference team since '96. And so for Dallin Cuff, our fantastic crew, I'm Tom Hart. Time to get you the ACC. Time for Louisville and North Carolina. Doug Sherman, it's all you.
Thank you, Tom. We are at the Dean Dome, just underway with Louisville knocking down the first shot of the ball game to take the early lead over North Carolina.
And a welcome sign. Carlik Jones getting 2 points on the board early for Louisville. And Doug, this is the second COVID pause that Louisville's had to deal with this season. The first one, they came off an 18-day pause where they were beaten 85-48 at Wisconsin after those 18 days. Now, after 19 days, they come take on the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. However, Carlik Jones missed that game at Wisconsin, so I'm sure Chris Mack is happy to have his leader trying to overcome this tough task here today.
Well, Louisville only traveled 10 players to North Carolina. Aiden Aguirre and Josh Nickelberry not available, but as mentioned, Williams will play tonight coming off the bench. Last year's runner-up for ACC 6th Man of the Year. The 5 walk-ons didn't come. It's been a crazy week, a crazy 48 hours for Coach Mack and his team with all the uncertainty, Corey.
You're going to narrow it down to a week and 48 hours. It's been a crazy year, Dougie Fresh. And not just for Coach Mack and his team, but for everyone. And that's really what this basketball season has been about, being able to adjust and adapt. And right now, Louisville, after 19 days off, getting their opportunity to go out on the road and play in Chapel Hill. And also, this is the first time North Carolina's had a home game, a home ACC conference game in their last 5 attempts.
Garrison Brooks with his first 2. Well, the Tar Heels, as you know, snuck in a non-conference game this week because of their ever-fluctuating schedule. And they beat Northeastern on Wednesday, 82-62. Day'Ron Sharpe, 15 points, 8 rebounds. Brooks had a double-double. But what was the greatest benefit, Corey, for the Tar Heels getting that game in earlier this week?
Well, it was to get a home game. To be completely honest, they've had, 3 of their conference games at home canceled or postponed, and most likely coming up this week they'll have another one, a 4th versus Boston College on Tuesday, that they won't be able to play. So when you look at North Carolina and how they were able to come up with that game, it's simple. This is 2020, 2021. We tweeted out, hey guys, we need a game. Well, Northeastern willing to come to Chapel Hill, accept it, and got an opportunity for those 2 to get it on earlier this week.
And because the rest of college basketball knows Roy Williams is looking for non-conference games, they didn't have to go to Twitter for their next game. It was just announced a couple of hours ago that Marquette will travel to Chapel Hill for a game on ESPN2 on Wednesday.
We look at North Carolina's remaining schedule. Florida State coming in next Saturday, and then a matchup with Syracuse the following on Big Monday. So North Carolina still with an opportunity to continue to build on its NCAA tournament resume with some big teams coming up moving forward. But right now, they're concerned about the Louisville Cardinals, who've gotten off to a very good start considering they haven't played and practiced much over the last 3 weeks.
Well, Chris Mack himself, the 50-year-old from Cincinnati, recovering still from COVID-19. He says that he is still feeling the after effects, but he has his team off to a good start on the road. He has switched the starting lineup again, has Samuel Williamson back in, and has Quinn Slazinski coming off the bench for the first time in 4. It'll stay at this end. John Higgins, the official, right on top of it, says Carolina basketball. There you saw Garrison Brooks, the preseason ACC Player of the Year, makes a nice pass to Armando Bacot. It's knocked out of bounds, and the Heels will keep it again.
And a year ago, while Garrison Brooks was performing his best basketball that he played in his career in North Carolina, which allowed him to become the preseason Player of the Year this year, he missed the game at Louisville, where Louisville handled the Tar Heels easily. So I'm sure this is a game that Garrison Brooks has had scheduled on his calendar to make sure he was in full effect to be able to come out and have a strong performance after watching what Louisville did to his team without him a year ago.
Caleb Love puts the Tar Heels back on top with the triple, his first points for the freshman from St. Louis.
And a great sign for North Carolina early, already 2 for 2 from beyond the three-point arc. And this is a team that when they make 7 three-pointers, they normally win. And 7 is a low number for many teams, but when you consider what North Carolina does on the glass, they don't need but so much production outside.
But an offensive rebound for Louisville gets another shot. They can't cash in, and here come the Tar Heels. Walton gives it to Leaky Black, who fires away. Too strong. Offensive rebound, Bacot. He banks it up and in.
But that's North Carolina basketball. You miss a shot, so what? You've got the best of the best. 3 guys from North Carolina average over 7 rebounds a game when you consider Sharpe, Armando Bacot, as well as Garrison Brooks. And they average 15.1 second chance points per game, which leads the ACC, and I believe leads the country.
Well, they lead the nation in rebound margin as well, plus 11 per game. Great position, nice feed. Bacot's got 2 more.
Great start for Armando Bacot. More importantly, getting great position early and sealing on the interior. Malik Williams may be able to change some of that, but North Carolina is going to test that interior defense of the Cardinals all night.
David Johnson, kick to the corner. Williamson off the mark. 1 and done for Louisville.
Samuel Williamson back into that starting lineup, as you mentioned earlier. He's been averaging a double-double over the last 3 games where he's come off the bench. 11 points and 11.7 rebounds per game. So getting back in the starting lineup, I'm sure much more expected of Samuel Williamson, as we see David Johnson with a nice finish on the interior.
Yeah, the difference with Williamson, he's making harder cuts, boxing out, crashing the glass, and running the floor with purpose. And his numbers and stats have gone up along with that. There's Carolina just playing volleyball against the glass with themselves. Well, when we come back, we'll be talking about the battle with COVID-19 within this Louisville basketball program. This is what the Cardinals have coming up Tuesday at Notre Dame and then at Duke next weekend. You just don't know. But I tell you what, Corey Alexander, having number 5 coming off the bench for you has got to make Louisville feel that much better about their lot in life right now.
Well, to be completely honest, Dougie Fresh, the fact that Louisville is back on the court and playing is a win. And when you consider the fact, you know, what this team has been through over the past 3 weeks, getting Malik Williams back is the icing on the cake. I know Chris Mack wants to win this ball game, but even if they don't come out with more points than North Carolina does when the clock hits triple zeros, it was a win for them to get back on the court. They've been through a lot to try to get to this point, and they've got Chuck road ahead moving forward. You see their schedule. It's not going to be easy, but the fact they're back and playing basketball has to be a win for this program.
People have been asking Coach Mack and the players this week, what's going to be different this time as opposed to back in December when you came off an 18-day pause and went to Wisconsin and got clobbered? Well, first thing he said is we're going to have Carlik Jones playing. And the second thing is they have been able to work out much more consistently individually and collectively during this pause as opposed to in December, Corey, where basically they were shut down.
Well, and I believe that that will play a part and that will help. The difference is the fact that they haven't been able to also practice together. So that's the one thing that is the same. They haven't had much practice time as a team, and you also haven't been able to deal with much contact and getting up and down the floor. Recognizing that this North Carolina team is not a great defensive team, as is Wisconsin, and this North Carolina team doesn't shoot the 3 as well as does Wisconsin. So that could be a difference between the 2 games. But I'm sure that experience of having gone through it before has helped Chris Mack prepare his group for what the task they've had ahead of them today.
David Johnson uses the screen on the pick and roll. Easy 2 layup. First bucket of the season for Malik Williams.
And a great find by David Johnson. I'm sure he's extremely excited to have Malik Williams back on the floor. And not solely because of what Malik does for them offensively, but more so what he does defensively. Because he's a guy that's anchored this defensive unit for the past 2 seasons.
Carlik Jones read that pass, stole it, and scores at the other end.
And also Dougie Fresh against Wisconsin. Chris Mack didn't have Malik Williams either. So,
yeah.
it's
They haven't
great
played
just
again.
to have it back in the mix.
Right, Corey. This Louisville team, because of the injuries preseason to Malik Williams and Charles Minlin, have not played a game at full strength yet this season.
And even though they gave up the offensive rebound, you see Malik Williams, and just that being 6'11", and of course his ability on the offensive end of the floor to be able to screen and finish over defenders in the post area helps them too. But Malik Williams, he can stretch the floor, but his biggest contribution to this Louisville team is defensively. And he's very communicative in the back line. He's always talking to his teammates and getting everyone on the right place. So his leadership will be something that Chris Mack welcomes back into this lineup.
Offensive rebound, Andrew Platek, as the Tar Heels continue to struggle from the free throw line. They are off to a 1-for-6 start tonight. Day'Ron Sharpe with a layup.
You know, we talked a lot about Malik Williams just since he's come back in this game because he is that valuable to Louisville. But you can see already after about 3 possessions up and down the floor, he's not in basketball shape. And it's going to take a while for him to be able to get to that. A play like that a year ago with Williams in shape, he would have been able to recover as Quinn Szynski gets a very nice layup. Does a great job off a beautiful find from Williams at the top of the key.
17-15. Carolina with the basketball in a 2-point lead. R.J. Davis has come into the game to run the point for the Heels. Brooks from 16 feet, a little strong. And another offensive rebound for Day'Ron Sharpe. Back out to Platek.
7 offensive rebounds already for North Carolina, and that's going to happen. I mean, again, there's nothing you can do to keep them off the glass. The bigger concern is, do they turn them into second chance points? Does that become part of their offense, which they don't on that possession?
Platek blocks the shot by Johnson. Carolina comes away with it, and the whistle before Caleb Love could get out in transition. When we come back, we'll be talking about breaking barriers on the campus at the University of North Carolina. He led his team to a couple of Final Fours while in Chapel Hill as well. For more Black History Always storytelling content, visit theundefeated.com. And Corey Alexander, I know that Mr. Scott is a friend of yours, and you have a great sense of what it was like for him to be on this campus back in the late 60s and early 70s, breaking those barriers.
Well, I've had opportunities to sit and talk with him, and I actually reached out to him today to make sure he was going to be watching. And I can remember a couple years ago talking to him when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and just hearing the stories and hearing him talk about his experience at the University of North Carolina and how difficult things were for him at that time. You know, it's tough to hear, but also when you hear the level of respect and just the love that he had for Dean Smith, that is all worth it. And of course, you know, we love to thank Charles Scott for what he did for myself and so many other, you know, black athletes in opening up a door to being able to play basketball on scholarship in the South and in the ACC.
And of course, Roy Williams was an undergraduate at North Carolina at that exact same time, and so he has known Charles Scott for a half a century. And in our visit with Roy earlier today, he said of Charles Scott, quote, "He's the most amazing basketball player I've ever seen." And he also talked about that both Roy and everybody around the team heard a tremendous amount of junk both on and off the court. And, you know, it was the time, and Mr. Scott endured more than certainly I could ever imagine, Corey. And like you said, did so much for those who have come since in the last half century.
You know, and the thing is, there's, of course, what Charles Scott did himself warrants so much praise. But also Dean Smith and Dean Smith's pastor. It was actually Dean Smith's pastor that on Charles Scott's visit to University of North Carolina encouraged him to bring him to church. And that was the reason why they were able to get Charles Scott in comparison to him going and playing for Lefty Driesell at Davidson. And so when you think about that, it was really more so just being not just Charles Scott being a pioneer, but also Dean Smith and his pastor letting him know that, hey, you come here, you're going to be a welcome part of this family, and you'll be treated as one of ours, not as an outsider.
Well, the Tar Heels of present day have gone cold after a quick start. Although with the foul, Walker Kessler will head to the free throw line to shoot two. And there's one of the many banners hanging in the Dean Dome. This one for the man whose name is on the outside of the building as well. The 7'1" freshman from Newman, Georgia, will get a second. Coming up next, it's a Sonic blockbuster at Cameron Indoor as number 7 Virginia takes on Duke. Huge opportunity for the Blue Devils, and how will Virginia bounce back, Corey Alexander?
Well, interesting, you know, when you see Virginia having to go in and play against a Duke team that is playing differently. When you consider no Jalen Johnson in the lineup any longer, Mark Williams becoming even more of a factor for the Blue Devils. But playing Mark Williams against Virginia, when you have to be able to guard dribble penetration as well as be able to recover to the three-point line to defend Jay Huff, that could be a difficult task for the freshman. I'm sure Virginia looking forward to getting the bad taste out of their mouths that they got once they went to Tallahassee and took that beating from the Seminoles.
First free throw attempts for Louisville here tonight, as J.J. Traynor eyes the rim. And speaking of Florida State, coming off of that win over Virginia, Corey, they backed that up with a win in Pittsburgh this afternoon. That was a 79-72 final, and it gives people, I mean, we all have very short memories, and you have one great performance and all of a sudden, well, you're the team to beat. How do you handicap at the moment Virginia and Florida State 1-2-2-1?
Well, honestly, you know, when I look at it, I think both teams are very good and capable of being Final Four level, even national championship teams. I think that when you look at the styles, two completely contrasting styles, and I'll tell you a funny story. I'm on the elliptical on Tuesday evening, and I get a phone call from Coach Ham. And he says, we might be going to play at Pittsburgh, you know, on Saturday. And I asked him, I said, well, you don't want another layoff again. He says, well, to be completely honest, if we can't go to Pittsburgh and win, we can't win a national championship. And so he was ecstatic about the fact to be able to go out on the road. We know how good Florida State is at home, but Florida State teams in the past have struggled on the road, especially in games like this, considering they lost the last 2 games they played in Pittsburgh. So now they go get a win, and that just gives Coach Ham a little more confidence about his team and what they can do moving forward for the remainder of this season.
That, by the way, was the second foul on Carlik Jones, and so he stays on the floor, at least for now, for Coach Mack.
And you see Coach Mack going to a 2-3 zone, which is not something very characteristic of him, but I believe that has a lot to do with the opponent won in North Carolina and their shooting woes, as Sharpe comes up with 2 more second chance points. But not just that, also to be able to conserve some energy for his team, recognizing that they are coming off that COVID pause and most likely not in the best condition. But the one thing that's difficult to do against the zone is rebound. And Chris Mack's team is the second best rebounding team in the ACC. However, they're going up against the best rebounding team in the ACC, especially on the offensive board. Sharpe showing just why.
And Corey, you know how I feel about number 11 in white. His per minute production is just about as good as anybody.
And Sharpe, his motor, and that's the one thing that Roy Williams would talk about with him, his motor is next level. And of course, as a young player, there's a lot that he has to learn about being successful in college basketball. But in my opinion, I think it's going to be a short learning curve, because I think this is the only year we're going to see him in college basketball. Sharpe is that good. I believe he will be a high NBA draft pick this spring.
Kerwin Walton gives it to Sharpe. Williams blocked the shot.
But you see Malik Williams and his effectiveness early in the game on the defensive end of the floor, and it's just more so about position defense and recognizing how to play. We can see he's not in 100% condition, but still his basketball IQ is so high that he helps this Louisville team on both ends of the floor.
Third. Coach Williams looking forward to it. Here you see the very latest bracketology just released about 30 minutes ago from Joe Lunardi, who will, by the way, join us from his bunker in the second half. And you see he's got Louisville and Carolina on the right side of the bubble. But every game still is very important for both these two schools, Corey.
Absolutely, and not just these schools, but also when you consider Syracuse, Duke, Notre Dame, and possibly even Pittsburgh. But I think their chances definitely took a major hit today with the not picking up that win over Florida State. But when you consider what's going on in the ACC right now, and even though I'm dealing with, you, Mr. Syracuse, as well as our producer, Matt Bartley, who, you Syracuse guys, I'm rooting for the Orange. I would love for the Orange to be in the NCAA tournament, getting a big win today over Notre Dame, and an opportunity to go up against the Blue Devils at Cameron on Monday. Syracuse could find his way back into that picture.
We need to be clear, though. You're rooting for the Orange only as it helps you as an ACC guy. You don't have any love for Syracuse outside of the context of your league.
That could never be, more false. First off, Carmelo Anthony is my little brother. I am a huge Adrian Autry, Jerry McNamara fan. Those are my guys. So again, I root for the Orange. I just don't do it in front of you.
Back and forth they go after the Williamson layup. There's two more on the slam by Day'Ron Sharpe.
You can never rest against North Carolina. North Carolina's one of the very few teams that runs after makes or misses. It does not matter. They want to push the ball back at you as fast as they possibly can. And you see Malik Williams continuing to get the job done defensively as Samuel Williamson gets out on the break for the finish. But just like that, North Carolina goes back down and scores on a simple Day'Ron Sharpe dunk. So even though you get a fast break opportunity, you still have to sprint back defensively when you're playing against the Tar Heels.
Tough shot with a left hand goes off the glass for Quinn Slazinski. Also see Charles Minlin Jr. is coming to the game for the first time for a Louisville club that traveled only 10 to North Carolina. They flew charter last night. This is their first game in nearly 3 weeks, and so far really so good. We have not seen any, or at least I've not, Corey, seen any visible signs of real fatigue being a problem. They've kept up with the Tar Heels basically.
Well, give Chris Mack a lot of credit for that, though. Going to the zone defense, he's playing Malik Williams spot minutes, but he's used all of his guys, getting guys in and out, allowing them to play hard for short stretches, and then, of course, go in to sit down and rest. But one of the things that Chris Mack knows very well about this, he knows his personnel, which guys he can play longer stretches, and also he knows who's been dealing with illness to know that they've been getting workouts or not been getting workouts and getting the guys in the mix.
And you know what? Carolina continues to really struggle at the line now, 2 of 9, but it doesn't matter if you're getting the offensive rebound and turning it into 3 more points by Kerwin Walton.
Yeah, Kerwin Walton perfect from beyond the three-point arc early in this game. And right now, great to see Anthony Harris back into the game for North Carolina, who missed their game on Wednesday, in the concussion protocol. So Coach Williams talked about getting him back and how important that is and how important he's been for their team.
Kerwin Walton forces the shot clock violation with some good defense on Samuel Williamson. There you see the sharpshooter who has really helped change the dynamic for the better since being inserted into the starting lineup for UNC.
He really has, and this is the 10th straight game where North Carolina has started the same starting lineup after a revolving door of starters to start the season. But really one of the biggest improvements for the Tar Heels has been their ability to take care of the basketball. And they have a positive assist-to-turnover ratio, and Walton knocks down another 3, 4 for 4 from him here in the first half for 14 points. But their ability to take care of the basketball and get quality shots has helped this North Carolina team return to the form as to what we've seen of them in the past. And you see Walton, just a simple screen, David Johnson not being able to get through the elevator screen, and Walton doesn't need much time or space to knock down his 4th 3.
And he has already matched his career high, 3rd time this season, going for 14 points. He did it at Florida State. He matched it in their last game against Northeastern, and off to a hot start in the first half here tonight.
And being that you started talking so well about him, you made him miss a shot, Dougie Fresh.
My bad. Wednesday over on ACC Network, it's a college hoops triple header. Clemson and Wake Forest start things off at 4:30 Eastern. Then NC State takes on number 7 Virginia, followed by 16th ranked Florida State in Coral Gables to face Miami. Don't have ACC Network? Go to getaccn.com for instant access. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman. David Johnson, who has had a quiet first half, heads to the bench. Fouls a bit of a problem right now for Louisville, Corey. Jones, Slazinski, and Davis all have 2.
But again, that's where, this is a very good defensive team. Louisville, when they're in rhythm, they're a very good defensive team. They're physical. But you can see when you don't have the opportunity to practice as a group and play 5-on-5, it will take a toll on you in team aspects. So right now, defensively, they're not in the same place where we would expect to see them if they were in rhythm. And fouling is a part of that because oftentimes you're in the wrong position on the floor.
Carlik Jones, no. Dre Davis couldn't get the rebound. Carolina with it. Lob to the rim. Kessler finishes the alley-oop.
And as spectacular of a play as that was for Walker Kessler, more importantly, the find from Caleb Love. Caleb Love has progressed as a point guard throughout this entire season. Now with a positive assist-to-turnover ratio, handling the basketball, and has taken the reins from Roy Williams to be the point guard on this team. It was a battle between he and R.J. Davis early. Caleb Love has won that battle and continues to play good basketball, coming off a career-high 9 assists versus Northeastern last time out.
Kessler, the rejection, and then the deflected pass by Anthony Harris back in the lineup. And the Tar Heels bench comes to life.
We know about Caleb Love's ability to score.
Great to see the Cardinals' Malik Williams back out there on the floor.
Impressive, the development of Caleb Love. But to me, Kerwin Walton is the difference in this team because his ability to make shots opens up the floor. And this is the best I've seen Carolina run all season.
Doug and Corey, we will see you at the half.
Sounds good, Kevin. Thank you, guys. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman at the Dean Dome, and this is now the largest lead of the night for North Carolina. And as Fonz talked about, seems like in the last 4 or 5 minutes, maybe fatigue and the legs are starting to catch up with the Cardinals.
You're definitely seeing it, and of course, I'm always going to go with Fonz, but I got to give Coach Greenberg a shout out because exactly what he said is 100% correct. Kerwin Walton, his ability to shoot the basketball and not only make shots, but the attention that he takes away from opponent's defense, having to run him off the three-point line, opens things up for those big guys on the interior, makes it difficult to double team. And so now you get Day'Ron Sharpe getting easy dunks at the rim because the defense does not want to lead the three-point shooter. So, maybe Coach Greenberg knows a little bit about what he's talking about.
Well, hadn't we just been talking about that?
No, I had. Don't give yourself that much credit.
I'm the one who said he changed the dynamic of the team. I teed you up, and then Seth went on with that.
Oh, well, that means I would have had to have been listening to you to figure it out. I was listening to Coach Greenberg. Now, I don't listen to you much during the game, so.
Okay, going there again. How long till halftime? Well, Louisville's offense has gone cold here in the last few minutes, and the Tar Heels just keep running. Andrew Platek pushes the tempo. Kessler with a nice pass, and the finish by Day'Ron Sharpe.
And Day'Ron Sharpe continues to play great basketball. Led the Tar Heels with 15 points versus Northeastern. And you see great interior passing. Nice find from Kessler to a cutting Day'Ron Sharpe, who's able to finish over Samuel Williamson, who gives up about 3 to 4 inches, 20, 30 pounds in that matchup. Sharpe's going to win it each time. And look at the numbers for Sharpe. Already 10 points, 5 rebounds, and only 10 minutes of game action. That's called being efficient, Dougie Fresh.
As I've said, per minute, and it's not just scoring and rebounding with him. He's a really good passer. He plays good defense. He really does a lot coming off that bench. For the freshman from Greenville.
You said that? I really got to start listening to you. I got to start listening to you more. You might actually have an idea what you're talking about over there.
I'd like to think so. There's my guy. I'm the one who said I had a basketball crush on Day'Ron Sharpe about a month ago, and you said you turned it into a man crush. Basketball crush. Basketball crush.
All right, I'll take it. I do remember that, so maybe I do listen to you sometimes.
There he is passing out to the wing. Getting it back. The production per minute by Day'Ron Sharpe is as good as anybody you're going to find.
Are you not going to give R.J. Davis the credit for the nice find or the fact that Andrew Platek on the perimeter is knocked down to 3, so teams don't want to leave him, so Sharpe gets easy buckets? I mean, okay, I love Day'Ron Sharpe, but you got to give the other guys their props too. This has been a team effort that Day'Ron Sharpe has benefited off of with his numbers, but the fact that they don't want to leave the shooters on the exterior, that's the reason why there's no one there to contend with Day'Ron Sharpe at the basket.
I thought we were a team effort, Corey.
You and I are a team effort as long as everybody understands their roles. Everybody has to know their role with the team. You set me up, you let me look good, score all the points, and shine. And you just stay in the background, and we are great.
Well, we'll see about that. Mr. Sharpe with 12 points off of the nice feed from the freshman R.J. Davis. Louisville with a second opportunity, can't cash in. Leaky Black back into the ball game, will dribble up himself. A junior with the runner. Back the other way, Sam Williamson. Knocked out of bounds by the quick hands of the freshman from White Plains, New York, R.J. Davis.
Dougie Fresh, Louisville leads the ACC in field goal percentage defense at 40.1%. Right now, North Carolina is shooting 56% from the field. I don't think that would have happened on February the 4th. But when you factor in 19 days off, this is the Louisville defense that I was expecting to see. And Roy, not to say that Roy Williams was expecting to see them, but he was going to make sure they tested their legs and their conditioning, trying to get out and run as much as possible. Chris Mack wanted just to get his team back playing basketball and on the floor. Like I said, it's a win for them to be here playing today. But it's going to be difficult for them to have more points when this thing is said and done than the Tar Heels when you're coming off that long of a layoff.
Tar Heels have led for all but 29 seconds of this first half. And Carolina cash in on the turnover. Indeed they can. Caleb Love with the exclamation point to close an impressive first half in Chapel Hill. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by USAA. Insurance, auto, renters, and home insurance. Let's send it back to the studio for the halftime report.
All right, Doug, an exclamation point on what may have been the best 20 minutes North Carolina has played all season. Jeep halftime report. Kev Fonz and coach, Florida State and Pitt. Fonz, another double-double for Justin Champagnie, but Scotty Barnes and the Seminoles picked up a huge road win.
Yeah, continued balanced scoring for the Seminoles. 4 guys at double-figure scoring. Point for Raekwon Gray continues to be superb with 16 points and 8 rebounds in this game.
Late in the game, Noles up by 8. Scotty Barnes puts it away, make it 3 straight off the COVID pause for Florida State, 79-72. Game of the day, West Virginia, Texas. Check this out. Up 14, under 16 to go. Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones get into it on the sideline. Ramey needed to be restrained, and Coach Deuce McBride sparked the comeback.
Deuce McBride knocked down shots, and Sharpe McNeil was terrific. He has 16 points in the second half, knocked down 3 threes. And it's a West Virginia team that scored 25 points off turnovers. Now, look, these are 2 second weekend teams are even better. That type of incident can have a tremendous effect moving forward for Texas. Great comeback by West Virginia. Shows that this West Virginia team is really together.
Andrew Jones, great look down 2. 0.3 seconds put back on the clock. Coach Jericho Sims, another good look. And was he fouled?
Terrific play, and I do think he got in. Great job of Shaka Smart. 2 good plays, 2 good looks. Unfortunately, they weren't able to finish. And Andrew Jones, after that altercation, 1 for 10 from the field.
Remarkable to see that on the sidelines here. Kev Fonz and coach in studio. Jeep halftime report. Fonz, how did you see what went down there between Texas teammates?
Yeah, I just saw two seniors who have a lot on the line. You're talking about a team that's a 4 seed right now with an opportunity to work up and try to get on the 3 line. You got to be able to say what you're going to say, take it, handle it, absorb it, and let that ride because you're still in position to be able to beat a very good West Virginia team. I'm really disappointed at how both players handled that situation.
Courtney Ramey's his behavior is unacceptable. And for this team to move forward, like you're only as good as your locker room. And right now, that's a reflection of your locker room. Shaka Smart's got to bring both guys together, and then they've got to address their teams because how their team responded, minus 16 since that incident, is unacceptable. More importantly, that's a reflection of the program. That's a reflection of both of those guys. Two terrific young men. I mean, Andrew Jones' story is as good as it gets. I know Courtney Ramey personally. He's got a little chip on his shoulder. That's what makes him who he is. But that type of behavior absolutely splinters your team and splinters your locker room.
Takes away from a great game and a tremendous comeback. West Virginia from 19 down to win the game. Meantime, keeping it in the Big 12, Texas Tech, Kansas, a couple of ranked teams having at it. Bonds, the Jayhawks with answers down the stretch.
Yeah, they did. And they started early, getting that ball inside to David McCormick. I said all year long, if David McCormick can give them 10 and 10 in some sort, it puts them in position to be a Sweet 16 team. He was terrific today with 17 points and 8 rebounds.
TJ Shannon a 3, made it a 3-point game. Closing seconds. Christian Brown open, and he puts this one away. 17 and 8 for McCormick in the 67-61. Jayhawks win. Meantime, 41-25. OU up big over on ESPN2. Austin Reeves with 11 right now. Meantime, Coach, they're now 41-31 rebounding edge for Kentucky. Hey, Fonz, it's a down year for them. This is an impressive win.
There's no question about it. Tennessee.
Welcome back to our Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy. And here's a look at our first half stats brought to you by Ally. Walton and Sharpe leading the way offensively for UNC. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman, and this Tar Heels team shooting only 31% from 3 on the season coming in, but it's been a much different story so far tonight, Corey.
It really has, and they got off to a great start. Kerwin Walton knocking down the 3 as well as Caleb Love, and from there on, it's really been more about the outside in for North Carolina in this game, and we're normally used to seeing them out inside out. But Kerwin Walton really got the party started, knocking down the first 3 of the game, and then he went on to knock down his first 4 in the beginning of this game and start off the first half. Ended up 5 for 6 from the field, 14 points for him. And then they went inside. So unconventional for North Carolina, but they went inside to Day'Ron Sharpe, who continued his dominant play off of a number of beautiful feeds from his teammates, finishing at the rim and overpowering the Cards on the interior.
And here's a look at Day'Ron Sharpe, a former McDonald's All-American. The numbers outstanding as you see a top recruit. And Corey, you say you think he's going to be one and done.
Well, when you consider what he does, it translates to the NBA. The one thing that they say that is the biggest skill that you can do in college, you can do in the NBA, is rebound. And Day'Ron Sharpe is spectacular on the glass. And more importantly, he's a great athlete, which means he can defend pick and roll. And that's the 2 things they ask you to do for an NBA big: defend pick and roll and rebound.
Corey, those 48 points in the first half, the most for North Carolina this year, and 39 of them have come from freshmen. Louisville with the basketball to start, and an immediate knockaway by Leaky Black. Cardinals keep it, though, with 7 seconds to shoot.
And the Cards got to understand that they did not get a shot clock reset. And because of that, a 4th shot turning into a great defensive possession for the Tar Heels.
Black, Bacot, Walton, Brooks, and Love, who's got the basketball now to start for UNC. Same starting lineup Coach Williams has sent out for the last 10 games, including this one. Love into the lane, and a whistle. He's called for traveling.
And right now, Chris Mack, I'm sure, talking to his team at halftime, recognizing that they are out of rhythm, they're out of sync, but trying to find positives and to what they need to do to better themselves as a team in this second half. And again, going in down 19, it's going to be tough to get back and win this game. but there are things that they can do that will help them moving forward. They have to treat this almost like it's practice time right now, getting all his guys in the mix and getting everyone playing time, trying to get back in rhythm. If they do lose this game tonight, this doesn't hurt them moving forward into the season. It's solely about regaining that form and going on and winning their next 2-3 games.
Third foul on Armando Bacot. He stays in and defends. Here's Carlik Jones, one of 2 Louisville players with 6 points to lead the way. No reset of the shot clock as he didn't hit the rim. Still haven't hit the rim. And finally, with a throwdown, get 2 points by Jalen Withers.
But Louisville is a very good offensive rebounding team in itself. We mentioned in the first half, they are the second best team in the ACC in rebound margin, and you can't be that without getting it done on the offensive glass. And nice hands by David Johnson, picking the pocket of Caleb Love there and leading to an easy bucket for Samuel Williamson on the other end of the floor.
Well, those are 2 highly touted sophomores, Corey. I mean, they have tremendous talent, and if Johnson and Williamson are bringing what they can, it makes this Louisville team that much more formidable.
And a great start for the Cards coming out of the halftime locker room. And just like that, now it's a 15-point game. But when you give up easy buckets, it makes it difficult to get back into a game. And just a miscommunication on the double team, you can't leave the biggest guy on the floor wide open under the basket.
Well, we've seen great passing for Carolina, especially big to big. Of their 21 made field goals, they've got 13 assists, and it seems like half of those at least have been between their 4 big guys.
Well, and that you have to do that for North Carolina, because when you play 2 traditional bigs, when they're one of the very few college basketball programs that continue to play 2 traditional bigs, but you're going to get double teamed. And so passing, interior passing between those 2 guys is always going to be important, especially when it allows you to put more points on the board.
Caleb Love with the basketball to Armando Bacot, who gives it back. Knocked away, and here comes the run out. Carlik Jones, who earlier tonight went past a big milestone, over 1,800 career points. Of course, the first 3 at Radford University, and then this year averaging over 17 per game, and another chance off another UNC turnover. But denied the block.
Yeah, the 4th turnover by Caleb Love. Now the 5th turnover for Love here in this second half, as Caleb Love has had a difficult time holding on to the basketball. He does get back on this one and deny the 2 points from Carlik Jones. Nice block, but 5 turnovers already for Caleb Love in this second half. And we've only played 3.5 minutes to this point.
Well, Carlik Jones is not going to quit. 6'1", 185-pound grad transfer from Cincinnati out of Aiken High School, who was not recruited by any power conference schools, including his hometown schools in Cincinnati, UC and Xavier, which, oh, by the way, at the time was coached by Chris Mack, the guy who has recruited him to Louisville. But he didn't let that stop him. He was an impact freshman and had a great 3-year run. Last year was Conference Player of the Year at Radford. He was a young man who has overcome a birth defect called craniosynostosis that didn't allow him. The doctors wouldn't let him play any sports until he was almost 5 years old. But he is just going to keep coming at you, Carlik Jones, and he is really the heart and soul of this Louisville team.
Well, we've seen both Carlik Jones and David Johnson pick the pocket of Caleb Love, and which shows you one of the reasons why Louisville is such a good defensive team, because they probably have the best defensive backcourt, if not the best backcourt overall in the ACC. And Doug, just for good measure, right now the official scorebook only has Caleb Love for 4 turnovers. So maybe I was wrong, or maybe there's some home cooking. Who knows? But right now,
Joe Lunardi from the bunker talking bracketology. And Joe, we're watching a game here with 2 teams who are in the field right now. Louisville is an 8. Carolina is an 11. With only a couple of weeks left in the regular season, how do you size up these 2 teams right now?
This is a terrific and important win for North Carolina, assuming they finish off the Cardinals here and get the W. Because of some movement elsewhere today, Carolina actually shifted to the very top of the last 4 in. So this victory would give them a little bit of breathing room as they head down the stretch in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Now, as far as Louisville is concerned, What would concern me isn't so much losing this game, but I think, as Corey pointed out, is there a spillover effect? And does returning after another long layoff impact them going forward? Because they are an 8, but it's a pretty soft 8, if you will. The resume isn't all that great. The numbers are decent, in part because of a smaller number of games having been played by Louisville. But, you know, like a lot of these teams in the power conferences, they get more opportunities. So certainly down the stretch, Louisville can and should cement its NCAA position.
Now, Joe, when you look at this, and Louisville has played a league-low 9 games to this point, is that something that the selection committee will take into consideration? Will they take into consideration the fact that Louisville's had 2 18-plus day COVID pauses and the games that they played after that? Or is that something that will not be in consideration when they make those selections?
Well, think of it this way, Corey. The committee members, you know, they have a binder of player availability information in a typical year, meaning injuries, suspensions, a coach suspension, whatever the case may be. Well, now that binder's probably about this thick when you throw in all the pauses and issues that have been part of this unusual season. So, of course, it'll be taken into consideration. But I think at the end of the day, it still comes down to who'd you play and who'd you beat. So for Louisville to really feel good about itself, all they can do is control what's in front of them, and that's to get another 2 or 3 wins against teams that are also contending for the NCAA field. Whether that happens at the end of the regular season or in the conference tournament is probably immaterial to the committee, as long as they demonstrate that they're at the right level.
And there we see what the Cardinals have remaining: at Notre Dame Tuesday, at Duke next Saturday, and then at Virginia Tech and against Virginia. So a lot of good games, potential statement wins ahead of them. I want to shift a little bit to another ACC team, Joe. Clemson has had a couple of pauses, and when they came out of their first big pause, you know, they got walloped their first 3 games and then seemed to figure it out. Now they're back on pause. What do you make of Clemson right now and their resume and how it should be interpreted?
Yeah, I would say Clemson, maybe St. Louis are the 2 most difficult teams in the country to evaluate. Clemson, of course, in the ACC, and St. Louis in the Atlantic 10 for the same reasons. You know, they've come out of pause and just not looked like the ranked team that we saw in November and December. And really, you know, who are we to judge? We don't know what's going on off the court with all of the Tier 1 personnel at these various programs. And the committee, while they might have more information, they can only look at the results that happen when the teams are on the court. So I don't know how much of a pass these teams with lengthy pauses are going to get, because there's another even larger group of teams waiting to take their spots. So they get consideration, yes, but I certainly wouldn't put that as the reason that they're going to get in because of something that didn't happen. It's more a question of what did happen when they were playing.
And, Joe, when you look at Syracuse, you look at Duke, Notre Dame, and possibly Pittsburgh, which of those 4 ACC teams has the best chance of being able to move into the field, even if it's an 11 seed playing in that first round?
You need to throw Georgia Tech into that mix, too, I think, in terms of ACC teams that are out that can make a run. But to me, it's clearly Duke, in part because of schedule, right? In about 45 minutes, they're going to play Virginia, and then they're also going to play Louisville. And then they're also going to play North Carolina a second time.
Joe Lunardi, as Carolina leads Louisville by 23 points. This, of course, a big game. We've got our Sonic Blockbuster coming up after this one between Duke and Virginia. But really, the big game of the weekend is tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock at the Big Ten, between Michigan and Ohio State. And so somebody, Joe, has to lose that game. What will happen to that loser, and might they fall off the one line?
Yeah, these are the 3rd and 4th overall #1 seeds. And I think if Michigan were to lose on the road at #4, maybe the teams switch positions but stay both #1s. If Ohio State loses, particularly if it's convincing, we're going to have to take a close look at the Buckeyes versus the team right behind them at the top of the #2 line, and that would be Illinois. Now, Ohio State owns a head-to-head win at Illinois, but Illinois throttled Minnesota today at Minnesota, where, you know, the Gophers, they're the Lakers at home, and I don't know, a CYO team on the road. But I think if it's a closely contested game, both will stay as #1 seeds when we get to Monday's bracket. But Illinois is lurking, and I know that they're very interested in the outcome.
Well, Joey Brackets and Dougie Fresh, you both know that I am an ACC guy. I don't root for the Big Ten. But if I did, and if I gave shout-outs, I would have to give a shout-out to my brothers, Juwan Howard and Howard Isley, who I'm assuming and I'm hoping will be the next head coach at Boston College. And also to my young fella, Hunter Dickinson, who I know is watching right now, because his former AAU teammates at Team Takeover, Armando Bacot and Ant Harris, they won Peace Jam together. And Hunter's always watching basketball, especially when I'm on. So I got to give my young fella a shout out who's had a great year this season.
Joe, I think you've just got a taste of what we all go through every Saturday.
Yeah, if there's anybody that wants to be mentioned by Corey, just raise your hand, and, you know, we'll be sure to get them in.
Hey, Joey Brackets, for the record, I give you shout-outs all the time. So, I mean, again, you know, you are on my shout-out list.
You
might get one every game I do. So again, you know, but again, not everybody's on that list. If me and Sherman on air together, forget about it. He's got no chance of getting a shout-out from me.
Freshman of the Year, the 2020 Big South Conference Player of the Year, 2-time first-team All-Conference, 3 great years at Radford, but decided to challenge himself and chose Louisville as a grad transfer over Gonzaga, Michigan State, etc. He was the top-rated grad transfer coming into the year, and Corey Alexander, he has played exactly like that.
He has delivered, has a chance to be a first-team All-ACC performer this year, Doug. But one of the things I want to make sure that is commended, Radford University did not act sour. They didn't pout about the fact that Carlik Jones was leaving them. They congratulated him and supported his decision to move on. Give Mike Jones, the staff there, and the athletic department at Radford a tremendous amount of credit, because oftentimes you see guys decide to go elsewhere in a grad transfer year, and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the people that he's leaving. That was none of that at Radford. Of course, he would have been spectacular at Radford this year, but, you know, he wanted to challenge himself and has done just that. And I give Carlik a lot of credit, and also Radford University a lot of credit for supporting him on that decision.
Beautiful feed from Andrew Platek to Anthony Harris for the layup. The lead is up to 22 points for North Carolina.
And North Carolina with 20 assists on their 29 made field goals, but also 8 block shots to 0 for Louisville in this game. And North Carolina has dominated this game in all facets. But, of course, that's something that you really would expect when a team hasn't played for close to 3 weeks.
Coming up, NBA Saturday primetime, 8:30 Eastern on ABC. It's Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, and LeBron and the Lakers tonight in just about an hour over on ABC. And for Louisville fans, a chance to see Montrezl Harrell come off the bench for the Lakers, last year's NBA 6th Man of the Year. Just past the midpoint of the second half. It's been all Carolina since about the midpoint of the first half. Lob to the rim. Bacot no, and a foul, it looks like, before that shot.
We mentioned in the first half, Louisville leads the ACC in field goal percentage defense at 40.1%. And right now, North Carolina shooting almost 60% for the game. And so when you consider that, that's really where you've seen the biggest difference with the Cards. Their defensive rhythm, of course, they're 1 for 12 from beyond the three-point arc, which is not great. But Louisville has won games where they haven't shot the basketball well. The problem for them has solely been about they cannot get stops against North Carolina.
Well, Roy Williams' team has played extremely well tonight. We can't forget about the fact that, Corey, they're 2 for 11 from the free throw line. I mean, in 5 of their last 6 games, they were barely better than 50-50 from the stripe, and that's, I mean, is that who they are? How much better can they be in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Well, with the schedule they have coming up, I hope that's not who they are, because if so, it's going to cost them some games. You have to be able to finish plays off at the free throw line when you get those opportunities, especially when you attack the basket as much as North Carolina does, and Armando Bacot with a nice finish there. And really what's been a quiet game for him, but you see 6 for 7 from the field, 6 rebounds, because Sharpe has had such a loud performance. You've almost forgotten about the leading scorer for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
David Johnson going to work, missed the rim. Bacot with another rebound. And Davis is fouled on the outlet.
Armando Bacot, who leads North Carolina in scoring, does a tremendous job on the roll, and you see the defense just a step late for Louisville. This is somewhere where you would have someone normally from Louisville meeting him outside of the restricted area trying to draw a charge. But on that opportunity, Bacot able to get all the way to the rim.
And that was the 4th assist for Playtech. And again, 22 assists on 31 made field goals before that bucket by Bacot.
And that's something where Armando Bacot has that in his resume. And again, you know, I understand what North Carolina likes to do, but he can make that shot and make that shot at a high clip. Going to have to start taking that more, because what teams play North Carolina, they sag off that big man at the top of the key. Sharpe, Bacot, Brooks, and Kessler all can make that shot. They're going to have to start taking some of those 17-footers.
R.J. Davis lobbed to Kessler, a little too tall for the 7-footer. Minlin. Fight for the rebound comes to Carolina. Here comes Kerwin Walton into the front court. Playtech feeds Bacot inside Kessler, and again there's some of that big-to-big passing inside. Timeout.
Last time these two teams met, Jalen Suggs had 17 points, was 3 of 5 from 3. I think should be top 3 in this year's NBA draft.
DJ Stewart, he's had 8 consecutive double-figure scoring games. He is seeing a big basket. The challenge will be, can he deal with the pack line defense of Virginia?
Doug and Corey.
Casey, thank you. And after us, as you're talking about, we will send you to Cameron Indoor. And there are a lot of things on the line for Duke. It's been well chronicled how they have struggled this year. And Corey, you have to go back pretty much a quarter century for the last time the Duke Blue Devils have had a season anything like this.
Well, I don't like the way you worded that, because a quarter century ago was my last year in college, that year that the Blue Devils didn't go to the NCAA tournament, so you just aged me. And I don't appreciate that from you, Dougie Fresh, but I do understand you were trying to make a point, so you know, I don't think it was a shot at me, but I was kind of feeling like it was.
It was, and look in the mirror, your gray hair will tell that quarter century story.
No, this is called wisdom, Doug. This is called, at least that's what the Bible says. And who am I to argue with the good book?
This is true. But yes, it's been a long time for Duke, and we talked about it. You and I had their game last Saturday as Davis knocks down the 3. There's Corey back in the day. Nice, clean, tight look.
Yeah, long time ago. Long time ago. And I couldn't grow the beard back then like I can now.
Oh, yeah. Just go to Twitter. You'll see that beard that is no longer.
What do you know about Twitter? You're not on Twitter. We need you to be on Twitter, Dougie Fresh. Twitter is missing you.
I am on Twitter and using Twitter every day without myself being on Twitter, if you know what I mean.
So you got a burner account? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No. You don't need an account to use Twitter. So I go on and check out what you're up to. I check out what Rex Chapman's up to. I follow all of
best on Twitter, for the record.
Absolutely.
My man Rex Chapman, best on Twitter.
Block charge. Top-ranked boxing tonight from Las Vegas. Miguel Burchell defends his WBC junior lightweight title against Oscar Valdez in the main event. The prelims begin at 7 Eastern on ESPN Plus, with the main card starting at 10 on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the app. It's a Mexico-on-Mexico fight. These two guys with combined record, Corey, of 66-1, including 56 KOs combined.
Now, you know a lot of things, so I'll ask you this question, but it's a leading question. Do you know what the prize is to the winner for that fight?
The WBC junior lightweight title.
I'm sorry, the financial prize.
Oh, that I don't know.
Okay. Well, regardless, would you jump into the ring for the amount of whatever that prize is going to be against either one of those guys?
I'm going to quote one of my good friends. His name is Corey, and say, hell no.
I said that.
Just in general.
That would be my thought process. There's no way I'm jumping into the ring with either one of those guys. I don't care what the purse is. It's not worth it when you can't enjoy spending it.
No, not a chance.
Looks like we've got an injury on the court.
Dre Davis, with the assistance of his teammates, David Johnson and Charles Minland.
Encouraging that he's walking off on his own, but we saw him coming off the screen and defending a screen. You see at the bottom, Minland going off, and right there it is, that thigh bruise. That's going to stick with you for a while. You see that knee right into his left leg coming off, and that's going to be tough. Fortunately, he's able to walk off on his own power, but you see the trainer going over, and again, I'm no doctor, but I can diagnose these things because I've had most of them. And you see that immediately. That the thigh bruise is going to stick with him probably for the remainder of this regular season.
And again, the Cardinals came from Louisville last night with only 10 players on the charter. Nickelberry and Igehan with injuries stayed in Louisville, but this has marked the return of Malik Williams tonight. He's played a few minutes. Minland is still also getting himself back into game shape, but it's so hard, as we've talked about, through all of the different COVID pauses, and this is their first game in 19 days.
Yeah, my guy Josh Nickelberry, hope you feel better soon. Look forward to seeing you back on the court, and look forward to seeing the Cards back at full strength, 100% healthy. And this was a step in the right direction for them. And again, this score, and honestly, Doug, you asked me, I anticipated this happening. There's no way you can go 19 days without game action, and more importantly, miss that much practice time and expect to be able to go out on the road and compete with a team that is clicking. And North Carolina is playing some of its best basketball of the season right now and finding ways to win even when they don't shoot the basketball well. And they've been able to just, overpower the Cards all day. Another example from Day'Ron Sharpe in the post.
Sharpe now with 16 points to go along with 9 rebounds.
And Day'Ron Sharpe continues to show off his strengths, which is his strength, and dominating in the post. And when you look at the numbers for North Carolina in this game alone, and look at the post players and what they've been able to do. Armando Bacot with 14 points, 7 for 8 from the field. Day'Ron Sharpe, 17 points, 8 of 12 from the field. Garrison Brooks, 12 points from 5 or 7 of the field. And Walker Kessler only with 4. But as this game goes along, we could see him in double figures when he got his first double-figure game against Northeastern on Wednesday, making the 10th Tar Heel to have a double-figure game this season.
Including Kerwin Walton, who comes in averaging 7.5 points per game. He adds to his career high now with 19 tonight.
Well, we weren't even talking about the perimeter players. I mean, when we throw them in the mix, you think about what Walton has been able to do, as well as Caleb Love. North Carolina hasn't had much resistance in this game from Louisville. They've been able to do whatever they've wanted. And again, always have to mention the fact that Louisville has not played as a team in close to 3 weeks. And it was going to be a struggle for them coming into this game. The fact that they are out here competing is a win. I'm sure Chris Mack will not take it as a moral victory, but he has to be happy about the fact that his guys were able to get back out on the court.
4th double-double of the season for the terrific freshman Day'Ron Sharpe. The lead is 35 points over Chris Mack's Cardinals. Fourth foul on Withers, and we have received official word from the excellent SID from Louisville that the official diagnosis is a thigh bruise on that injury for Dre Davis.
Well, thank you, Kenny Klein, one of the best in the business. year in and year out. Always look forward to covering Louisville games and getting an opportunity to talk with Kenny. And I'm starting to feel like you didn't believe me.
Harris the assist. Kessler with 2 more.
Kessler now with 6 points and gets a steal. Opportunity for 2 more. Look at him stretch out. The big fella doesn't score, but pads his stats with the offensive rebound and the tap in. Now 8 points for Kessler. And if he's able to get 1 more bucket, he becomes the 4th front court member for the Tar Heels in double figures.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by, and yes, Corey Alexander, your Who's are the reigning national champs.
Wait a minute, did you not see me talk to Joey Brackets about your orange today?
Absolutely,
I
was
I'm
here.
An ACC guy. I take a lot of slander. People talk about me in Virginia. I am an ACC guy. I appreciate the league. And of course, I love my alma mater. I mean, who wouldn't love being a reigning national champion? I mean, who wouldn't love that? You loved that once. I love that too.
Ron Sharpe just keeps on keeping on. Well, 6 weeks ago, he had his career high against Notre Dame with you and I on the call. I think he's going to want to have us on more Tar Heel games because he is showing out again tonight with 21 points and 11 rebounds.
He is, and he's playing his best basketball at the right time. As this North Carolina team gets down the final stretch of the regular season, Ron Sharpe is really figuring out how he has to be successful for the Tar Heels. Coming off the bench, giving them great energy, playing with a high motor on a consistent basis. And oftentimes he doesn't start games, but we've seen him finish a number of games. You know, when he's come in, and whether it's he and Armando Bacot, whether it's he and Garrison Brooks, you know, they have the best front line when you think about the 4 players in college basketball, the amount of depth that they have up front. And they make teams have to adjust to the way they're going to play. Armando Bacot, you know, is probably performing at an all-ACC level this year, and he had a quiet game. You know, we haven't even talked about him. He had a quiet game and still 13 points for Bacot. I'm sorry, 14 points for Bacot. So, you know, he doesn't have to show up and score huge every night, even though he's over his average. Garrison Brooks doesn't have to do that. Ron Sharpe doesn't have to do that. They do it collectively, and that's the reason why North Carolina's been successful this year. And a season-high 93 right now.
Well, one benefit from adding the non-conference game Wednesday against Northeastern was that Roy Williams was able to get more minutes and meaningful minutes for his reserves, and the same thing is happening here tonight that I only assume will pay dividends for the Tar Heels going forward. And here is one of them, Anthony Harris, coming back from a concussion. He missed that Northeastern game, but he is back to full strength and off the steal with the layup.
And I'm just happy to see him back on the court, battle with 2 ACL injuries over his senior year of high school and then last year, his freshman year in North Carolina. But just like that, Anthony Harris has gotten back into this North Carolina lineup and is a difference maker, especially on the defensive end for them.
Play tech. Leaves it for Kessler, who throws it down.
Okay, Doug, you know I'm a math guy, right? So we've got 14 for Bacot. We've got 21 for Sharpe. That's 35. We got 10 for Walton. I'm sorry, 10 for Kessler. So we're at 45, and we throw in the 12 from Brooks. 57 points from the front line. And the last 20 points for the Tar Heels have been from those front line players.
It is something. They truly play inside out. And these guys work hard, too. It's not like they're just running stuff for them. They go and get their own as well off the offensive glass.
Doug, when we went to the last time out, I looked at the score, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is almost 40. We're almost at 50. It's a 47-point lead for North Carolina. And if this doesn't speak to anything other than the COVID effect on Louisville, because, I mean, this is not who the Louisville Cardinals are. But this is what COVID has done in college basketball right now as the Cards come back off of a 19-day layoff and trail by 49 here on the road.
Creighton Lebo gets his name into the scoring column for the Tar Heels. Tar Heels trying to get to the century mark.
And I've got to correct the error. Hopefully most of the Tar Heel fans are still on and listening. I've got to correct the error that I had earlier in the year when Lebo's name came up. And I said that was he the best shooter in North Carolina history, which he is definitely one of them. However, the best shooters in North Carolina history, I've got to say it, the Williams brothers, Donald and Shaman. It's a battle between those two guys as far as who is the best shooter in North Carolina history. Jeff Lebo, of course, Danny Green, Wayne Ellington, all those guys in the mix, but it has to come down to the Williams brothers, Donald or Shaman. I'll let the Tar Heel faithful choose.
(99-54). Carolina can run out the clock as it will improve to 14-7 overall, 8-5 in the ACC, and still undefeated at home this year, Corey.
Shame they've lost 4 home games. I know there's something that Roy Williams would love to have back. 4 ACC games on their home court have been postponed or canceled. But North Carolina playing great basketball here, especially on their home court.
Tough day at the office for Coach Mack and his Cardinals coming off of an extended COVID pause. Roy Williams and his Tar Heels looking good and winning 99-54. That'll do it. From Chapel Hill, for Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman. Let's send it back to the studio in Bristol.